Hello and welcome to the Revit Starter series. We're on our sixth video. We're going to be having a look at Enscape today. So we're going to have a look at some of the various rendering options and some of the additional functionality that we have with Enscape. So again, in case you've not watched any of the previous videos, do check those out. I'm Mark Calloway. I'm one of the application engineers here at Man and Machine. So if you haven't registered for any of these videos, do jump onto the Man and Machine website, manandmachine.co.uk, and you can register for this video series on there. As well, don't forget to check out our YouTube channel where you'll be able to find the recording of this video if you want to come back and re-watch this at any point. And we also have a blog on our main website where you can find all sorts of technical articles and how-tos and tips and tricks and stuff like that. So we'll jump straight into Enscape and get ourselves going. Okay, so Enscape is a visualization tool that bolts onto Revit. It adds itself as a tab at the top, and we'll see that in a moment when we jump into Revit, because we can kind of work on both at the same time. And what Enscape is going to do, it's going to take your Revit model, and just like a computer game, it's just going to render it in a 3D world that you can kind of navigate around. And if you've used a first-person computer game, for example, this is going to feel very familiar. So using your mouse and keyboard, we can run around and navigate our project. So we can see that in the background here, we have the very simple building that we've been making over these past few videos. I've took the liberty of adding a bit of a site onto here. You can see we've got some lovely trees and a bit of a parking area here, some roads, some paths, and some grass and all that sort of stuff as well. So within the Enscape window, in the very top right-hand corner, you've got this little button that's a question mark in a circle. It's a little help panel. If you click on this, you're going to get a little window pop out on the right-hand side, and this is essentially all the controls you need in order to navigate Enscape. You can see that you can use the basic WASD keys on your keyboard for running around. You can switch between flying and walking with the spacebar, and you can use your mouse to navigate around. So it's a fairly easy application to navigate. So as mentioned, I can kind of look around on the spot. I can use the WASD key to walk around, and if I hold down the shift button, I can kind of sprint across this car park here. So a lot of these components, such as the cars, the lamps, the trees and stuff like that, they come with Enscape, and we can use those within Revit to play. So we can add these to our Revit model using the Enscape plugin, and then they'll render within Enscape, as we can see here. Just to show you the level of detail that we're kind of looking at, if I just go into fly mode so I can kind of sink into the floor down here, we'll go towards the grass. You can kind of see that the level of detail we're dealing with here is we get the individual grass blades. Enscape, you can run around and navigate, and you get the video animations of the grass blowing in the wind and the trees and stuff like that. But as soon as you stop moving around, everything will freeze, and Enscape will try and refine the quality of the image the longer you leave it still. We can adjust the quality settings for the actual render outputs when you want to save images and panoramas and all that sort of stuff, and we can do that, and we'll look at that later. But if I just come back out the floor and go back into walk mode, let's have a quick look around this model. Okay, so let's go towards the front door. Okay, we can even put props of people into our models as well. It's also, as well as a visualization tool for producing renders, it's great for checking your models as well. Little things like we're missing a step here, or you might spot something that you wouldn't normally notice in a plan view, for example, but when you're actually walking around your model, you're going to see these little things. Okay, we can walk through doors, we can walk upstairs, and we can do all that sort of stuff. So again, we can kind of walk around. I'm going to go through this door because I know the stairwell's here, and I can spot mistakes such as on the left-hand side, the handrail here should be a wall-mounted handrail. Not quite so easy to spot when looking at a floor plan. You're going to see the railing there, but in a plan view, it's kind of going to look the same as a normal railing. We can have a look at one of the offices. And again, I've placed the desks the wrong way around. A simple mistake to make. But again, from Revit, it's not something that you're going to easily identify. But when you're walking around the model, you can pick up these little things. Again, I'm in walk mode, but if I go into fly mode, so tapping that space bar, like Superman, I can fly off, and we can also go through solid objects such as walls and roofs. And we can get a nice panoramic view of this model. Okay, so we can also change the time of day, which you can kind of see in the help bar on the right-hand side as well. If your model contains light sources, of which we've got a few here and they've been set up correctly, they should come on once the sun sets. And I'm just going to very quickly go forward in time. And as you can see, elements that generate lights, Enscape will render those as well. Okay, we can see the level of detail such as the sky. We've got clouds, we've got stars. There should even be the moon somewhere. There we go, we've got the moon in the background. All of this can be fully customized in the visual settings. Okay, so if you want to change how cloudy it is, how foggy it is, whether you want contrails from planes in there, how many stars you want, the size of the moon, they can all be fully customized. Okay, so let's go back into walk mode. Let's fast forward to morning, and then we can see our model a bit better than what we can do at night time. Okay, and about there will do us. And again, if you've set up your project so in the real world it's correctly geolocated, you've got it orientated correctly to north, you'll get all the correct shadows and stuff like that. As mentioned, Enscape is a bolt-on for Revit, so you can run and use them both at the same time. If I just go into window mode for Enscape, and we can change the behavior of this window. So at the moment, if I click on Revit, this window will remain on top. So if you're making changes in Revit and you're moving stuff about, Enscape will update live. But if you want to see that happening, we can have Enscape remain on top so that it doesn't go behind the Revit application every time you click inside Revit. And again, you can turn that behavior off should you wish it to actually do that. Now let's hide the help controls there. And let's move Enscape off to one side and let's shrink the properties panel on the left hand side just so we can see a little bit more of our model here. So let's play around with our model. We'll add some additional components. Maybe we'll fix some of the problems that we saw earlier and spin some desks around or something like that. So Enscape installs itself as a tab in Revit. Clicking on the Enscape tab, we access all the tools required. To launch the Enscape window, it's just the very first button on the left-hand side. We've already started it, so it now gives us the option to pause live update. So if you don't want the Enscape window updating as we're modeling, you can pause that there. But normally that button will say start. You just hit the start button and this Enscape window will fire up. On the Enscape tab, we also have access to an asset library. So these are elements that are being created by the Enscape team. If we click on the asset library, a new window will pop up and we can choose the category of component we want to place. We can base it on tags, such as whether it's for an office environment, whether it's outdoor, indoor, and all these can be added to your Revit model. Once added into your Revit model, Enscape will be able to render those. So let's add some more plants outside. Okay, it's looking a bit sparse outside. So let's go to vegetation and get a list of vegetation we can add. Let's see if there's something that's a bit extreme that we can add onto the list here. Now, all these families that we're seeing here, these are all on the cloud. Okay, so these are online. When you select whatever it is you're wanting to add, it will download that and load that directly into Revit. This pampas grass here looks nice. I'm going to left click on that. Revit's going to download that family, and that's going to be available for us to use in Revit. That's now automatically attached to our mouse cursor. I'm inside the component tool. Revit does take me straight into that tool. and placing it somewhere that I know we can see within the Enscape window, I'm just going to simply left click on that outside. And if we take a look at our Enscape window, if it's going to let me come out of the component tool, there we go. That's going to instantly update within the Enscape window. So if you want to visualize what you're adding to your model whilst you're adding it to the model, you can do. We can make changes live within the projects as well. So if I want to move this pampas grass, I can use the move command. Maybe we'll move it a bit closer to where we are in this Enscape window, just so we can get a bit of a better look. And that's instantly going to change within the Enscape model. It's quite an extensive library that they've got. It's well worth having a look through that. Looking at the grass, within Revit, we just simply generated a new floor type where the surface material is grass. Enscape looks at the floor, it recognizes the material, and it will automatically render grass on there. With the floor selected for the terrain outside, and again, you can use the topo surface for this as well. I've just used a floor slab because it's a nice and easy tool to get a nice flat lawned area outside. I can edit the floor type. I can take a look at the material. Okay, and I can see the grass that's been generated there. You can change this and Enscape will automatically update. So if you want to go for mode grass, you can do. If you want to go for field grass or meadow grass, you can do, and you'll get that look and feel and appearance within Enscape. Enscape also reacts to the 3D view that you're currently looking at. Within the 3D view, within Revit, if I just turn on the section box and we get this wireframe box around our model, we can adjust that and the 3D view will automatically update. So if you want to produce any renders out of Enscape and you want to crop the model, we can do that. For example, if I'm not interested in the landscaping around it, I can simply adjust this crop box and we can see Enscape, whoops, I'm in walk mode there, so let's fly back up here so we don't kind of fall off of the edge of the world. Okay, and we can crop the model down and adjust the extents that we are viewing. So maybe something like that, and we can see the Enscape model updating live. This ties in really well with some of the other features within Revit. And for this, I'm just going to have to minimize the Enscape window out of the way, but we can see that it does react live there. So within Revit, if we go to the view cube and right click on there, we can orientate and section our view to other views, such as floor plans and elevations and sections. For example, if I want to have a look at the waiting area, I want to create a render of just the waiting area, I can go to Orient to View, Floor Plans, Level 0, Waiting Area. If I select that, Revit's just going to crop the 3D view to the extents of the waiting area. If we jump back into Enscape, if I can get my taskbar at the bottom to reappear, we can see that Enscape has automatically cropped to the extents of that 3D view as well. So any 3D views that you've got saved, you can very easily crop your 3D view within Revit and Enscape will automatically update. Okay, so I'll just restore the 3D view and we'll have a look at some of the outputs that you can produce from Enscape. Okay, and again, if I can jump back into the Enscape window and we'll make that full screen now that we're seeing it working live with Revit. So we have a variety of outputs and we have a number of settings as well to control the quality and the environment for these outputs. Looking at the top of Enscape, we have a menu bar up here. Towards the left, we have what's typically most of our outputs, and towards the right-hand side, we have various settings as well. We have our window settings and we have our visual settings. We're not going to go through all these, but just to point out a few of the key ones, we can choose the camera perspective, should we wish. We've got exposure, we've got field of view, you can change the depth of field, and you can change the rendering quality as well. On the image tab, we can control stuff such as saturation, color temperature, lens flare, if you want that bloom. We have all those sorts of settings. We can change the environment, the atmosphere. So we can change whether there's a fog or a mist there, the height of the fog or mist. We can change the brightness of the sun, the stars at night, shadows. We've got all those controls and the wind intensity, etc. You can change the density of clouds, the type of clouds, the variety, contrails, all that sort of stuff as well. You can change the horizon as well. So between your landscape and the sky, we can control what can be seen. For example, I've just got a white background at the moment, but just to go for something, let's go with a mountain scene. You can see the environment in the background will automatically update outside of the windows that we have in this room. And I'm just going to change that back to a white background. You can also create your own backgrounds as well. So you can fully customize the scene that this is set within. We have our output settings as well, so we can change the file formats, we can change the quality of the resolutions, we can do video fly-throughs as well, and we can control the frame rates for them as well. So looking at the various types of outputs, okay. So on the left-hand side of the main menu at the top, first one we have is the video editor. If I click on the video editor, it's going to give us this settings window on the left-hand side and a timeline at the bottom. We can simply move our camera to a point in time. We can click this little plus button on the right-hand side, and we can add in a keyframe at that point. You can see we get this little camera icon showing us where that particular keyframe is. We can choose where we're going to go to next, and we can add in a second keyframe. Okay. We can change the time it takes to move between these different keyframes, and that will control the speed of the camera. If I just change this, and we'll go pretty fast, let's go for 5 seconds. Okay. And then we just hit the play button. So let's go right back to the beginning, hit the play button. And over a period of 5 seconds, we're going to move between that first keyframe and the second keyframe. And we can control which direction the camera is facing. With a bit of time, I could set up a camera path that flies across the site, goes in through the front door. We go into a typical office, and then we come back out for an overall view. We can easily generate that sort of path. You can see the path as mentioned before using those camera points. And you can then output these settings. Once you're happy, just simply hit the export button in the bottom right-hand corner. Again, we can choose a few settings before we do export and save this. You can then choose the file location, and then Enscape will save that video fly through. I won't do that now because it will take a minute or two for that to render. We don't have time for that in today's session. The next one is the screenshot button, and this is your typical still render. So you can pre-save locations within Revit and within Enscape, but essentially all you need to do is position yourself so that what you have on screen is what you want to output. Clicking the screenshot button, you can then choose the location to save the image. And again, we've seen the visual settings to control the quality of those outputs. If you have saved a bunch of rendering points, you can batch render them in one go. You can produce 360-degree panoramic renders as well. You can also do stereo panorama, which will give you a bit of a 3D effect should you use something like Google Cardboard or some sort of VR device that you can maybe put your mobile phone in or something like that, and bring up these panoramic 3D panoramic views on. You can also export the 3D model itself. So just as we're running around and viewing this 3D model in this Enscape world, we can change the time of day. We can export this. It'll export as a simple exe file. You can then send that onto a client. There's no need to install anything, so it just launches straight out of the exe file, and there's no need for a license neither. The only difference is that because it's a standalone exe, the model will be read-only. So you won't be able to edit and change things, which is probably what you're going to want if you're exporting this to send on to somebody. We can also export onto the web, so it will upload the 3D model and it can be viewed within a web browser. Okay, and the quality is pretty good that you'll get out of that. With all these renders, if you store them on the cloud, so having an Enscape license, you have access to an Enscape account and you have storage space on there, you can upload your renders, store them on the cloud, and you can generate a QR code. Scanning that QR code on any mobile device will access those renders that you've created. Okay, so that kind of covers most of the visualization side of Enscape there. The last thing I want to touch on is something called BIM Mode. So on the menu bar on the top left-hand corner, we have this BIM Mode button. On here, we can access the information within the elements that we've added. So right at the beginning of this video, I kind of mentioned that you could use this for inspecting the model. You can spot mistakes that walking around the model you wouldn't otherwise spot. If you want to access any details for any component, we can go into BIM mode and all your components are selectable. For example, if I select the exterior wall of this building that we've generated, we can access all the parameters. We can see the name of the type of wall at the top, this 300mm exterior, and we have access to pretty much most of the parameters that you'll have within Revit without having to go back to the Revit window and have to select the component in order to inspect the element there. So this BIM mode is pretty useful. When you don't have an element selected within the Enscape model, we get this file tree organization of all the components that make up the model. So for example, if I'm interested in the doors, I can find my doors here and you can see them highlighting within the model in the background as well. If I just move off of the doors, you can see the various different components highlight as I move over them. We can select those components and we can delve down and select individual elements, again, to access the information that's in there. So as well as being a tool for producing visual outputs, you can also use this for quality control as well and inspecting your model. Okay, so we'll leave it there for today. There is a number of other tools that I could show you in Enscape. It would take more time than what we have. You can download Enscape as a trial. So if you want to give Enscape a go, do go onto the Enscape website, download and install that onto Revit and have a play with this. Okay, I can't quite remember how many days you get to use it as a trial, but you do pretty much get all the features that we've seen here today, and you can produce some of the outputs as well. So do have a play with that. Our next video, so the 7th video in our series, we'll have a look at creating drawings within Revit. So we'll run through a number of tools there for creating details and adding notes and stuff like that. So do go onto the Man Machine website and register for that. So again, thank you all for watching, and I hope you found this video useful.